5 weeks after its primary election, New York has finally finished counting absentee ballots. The state's mail-in voting operation is facing some heavy criticism on all sides of the political spectrum for the slow process, including from President Trump. New York threw out thousands of ballots that did not stick to procedural details. In some cases, the inner envelope was not signed. In others, the post office didn't postmark the envelope. The State Board of Elections estimates more than 400,000 New Yorkers voted by mail in the primary, many for the first time. At least one primary race in New York's 12th Congressional District has not been officially decided. House Oversight Committee Chairwoman Carolyn Maloney appears to have held off a progressive challenger, Suraj Patel, by 3,700 votes. Patel has not conceded and is filing a lawsuit over the rejected ballots. Others, however, have been celebrating victory for some time thanks to large early leads. Among them is Jamaal Bowman. The 44-year-old former middle school principal knocked off the incumbent, House Foreign Affairs Committee Chairman Eliot Engel. Bowman is a progressive aligned with the same campaign team that helped elect Representative Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. Bowman has vowed to shake up Washington in a deep blue district that he's almost certain to win. And Jamaal Bowman joins us now from Yonkers, New York. He is officially the Democratic nominee for New York's 16th Congressional District. Good to have you with us.
Thank you.
So you had a big lead on Election Day, but it still took a few weeks for your opponent to concede. I'm wondering, given your perspective, having gone through it and now getting ready to go through it again, are you concerned about what the mail-in voting delays could mean for November?
Somewhat concerned. We need a lot more investment in terms of people and financial resources to make sure the voting process is fair and efficient and counts the votes of every single individual that's a part of the mail-in ballot process. We need to, I've always fought for making Election Day a national holiday to make sure people have the time and opportunity to vote. So somewhat concerned. I'm thankful that most of the ballots worked out here in our district and across the state, but it is a huge concern as there will be hundreds of millions of people voting on Election Day.
Well, it sounds like you have some ideas about voting rights improvements. We've been talking about that a lot lately, especially given the legacy of the late Congressman John Lewis. I'm wondering what you think it will take to actually get meaningful voting rights improvements passed.
It's going to take continued organizing from outside of Congress to hold elected officials accountable for pushing forward aggressive, assertive voting rights legislation. It's going to take organizing at the state and local level to make sure Republicans and others don't try to suppress the vote in a similar fashion to what happened to Stacey Abrams in Georgia. We also need to make, registering the vote automatic once someone turns 18, in addition to making it a national holiday. And we need to just open up more polling places across the states in this country so that people have access to the ballot in a more efficient manner.
Let's talk a little bit about your party. I'm wondering how you see yourself fitting into a Democratic caucus run by Nancy Pelosi and a party whose presumptive nominee for the presidency is Joe Biden. In many ways, the blue party is dominated by moderate voices. How do you see yourself being either operating in concert with them or pushing them perhaps a little bit more in another direction?
Well, it's going to be a little bit of both. I think a healthy tension is important for the Democratic Party at this time. We need to have dialogue and debate and disagreement. That's what's going to make the party stronger and move the party forward. I'm happy to see that Joe Biden has collaborated with representatives from Bernie Sanders' office to put together a policy that is more progressive in alignment with environmental justice as well as universal child care. So I'm excited to work with members of the party who are considered to be more moderate because as you can see in terms of the progressive wing of the party, we are very strong as evidenced by tripling voter turnout in this election. And despite my opponent receiving big name endorsements from the moderate wing of the party, we were still able to pull out a 16-point victory.
Well, Talking about the more progressive wing of the party, you've suggested that you'd like to join the squad, which includes Representatives Omar, Tlaib, Ocasio-Cortez, Presley. They're, for our viewers who don't know, they're the four progressive women of color who joined the House in 2018. They've also faced a lot of criticism, both in the public sphere and in their pushing for proposals, and also coming from the White House. Who do you view as the bigger impediment to your progressive goals, Republicans or Democrats? And were you serious that you'd like to officially become a member of the squad?
Yes, I was serious. I've been a member of the squad, even prior to running for office. The squad is not just for women in Congress. It's thousands, millions of us across the country who support progressive values and who will fight for the working class and the working poor in this country and fight against structural and institutional racism. I mean, we have to understand these are four women of color pushing back against a white patriarchy that's been in place since the inception of America. They speak truth to power, they are incredible leaders, and they're fighting for the working class and those who have been neglected throughout this country's history. So they are not the issue. And the Democratic Party in general is not the issue. It's Donald Trump and his Republican supporters that continue to push this country in the wrong direction. And it's those who continue to allow the wealthy elite and large corporations to dictate how policy works in their favor. That's unacceptable. It's been going on for too long. It's why we have a pandemic that's killed over 150,000 people in our country. It's why we have to continue to protest police brutality, because it's something that's continuing in cities throughout the country. We have a lot of work to do, and I look forward to being part of a party that becomes a leader in that work through policies like the Justice and Policing Act and many other policy reforms.
Well, you say that there are millions that are supportive, that the squad is not just those four women of color who are representatives of the progressive wing of your party. But they have been lightning rods, and they have received, each of them, the ire of Republicans, President Trump. Are you expecting to get to Congress and make a lot of noise, take a lot of heat yourself?
Well, change is uncomfortable for those who have benefited from the status quo throughout their lifetimes. So when you say they've been lightning rods, yes, they've been lightning rods for many who are comfortable with the status quo. I've already been attacked by the Trump administration as being a far left extremist. I'm a middle school principal, and I'm used to those who are insecure resorting to name calling when they don't have a scientifically based policy position to support their objective when it comes to the White House or the Republican Party. So, this is not about discomfort for the sake of discomfort or disagreement for the sake of disagreement. It's about moving the country forward in a way where we don't have one individual making $13 billion in one day while there are people starving, standing in food pantries to feed their families. That's not something that's going to sustain our democracy and move us forward in the way we need to move forward.
You mentioned your work as an educator. Thank you for that. And as a middle school principal in the Bronx for about a decade. New York has seen a sharp decrease in its COVID-19 infection rates. Are schools ready to open this fall? And if so, what do you think that needs to look like?
No, they are not ready to open at this moment. We need massive investments from the federal government. We need to retrofit our schools to make sure they have the proper ventilation and proper circulation before we allow students to go back in. We need to look at alternative learning spaces like outdoor learning opportunities, theaters and office spaces that are not being used to keep class sizes lower than they generally are. We need PPEs and testing and contact tracing to make sure we can keep our students and teachers and families safe. So there's a lot more work to be done, and passing the HEROES Act is a major step in the right direction. But the Republicans in the Senate, unfortunately, are continuing to push back with policies that don't meet the needs of our kids. If one child dies in this country because we went back too soon, that's a failure at every level of leadership, and that's unacceptable. So we are not ready yet, and hopefully we'll do the work in the next several weeks to get ourselves ready for September or whenever we are ready to be opened.
Mr. Bowman, one last question for you. I'm just wondering if you have a piece of advice that you received from your students that was particularly powerful for you.
Mr. Bowman, be yourself. That was the #1 piece of advice I received from a student that I continue to live by. Mr. Bowman, be yourself. And that's something that I've always taught my students and shared with my students. Love who you are, love your history, your culture, and your community, and that'll make it easier for you to love other people and work with other people. And that's what I hope to bring to Congress, and that's what I hope they continue to live by as students and adults.
All right, Jamaal Bowman, thank you for being with us.
Thank you so much.